Hey there folks, Pesca bringing another audio commentary, and today we have an elf mirror between Jade and ReminD, and it's going to be on Turtle Rock. So obviously, Turtle Rock, a really interesting map for elf mirror, actually just for elf in general really. There's interesting different ways you can start things off. Jade's going to be putting his Ancient of War down here. We have seen some players, if you get a good enough pump, which actually reminds you to do exactly what I'm talking about, put this Ancient of War here. Which is, it gives you a bit more accuracy. It still doesn't get you to level 2 immediately, but and it is a bit riskier if it's close positions. You might need that Ancient of War for a bit of urgent defense or something like that, and also it's a bit easier to pull the creeps onto this if you do scout it out and stuff. But it's overall it's a pretty safe build. That's probably why ReminD's going for it. And ReminD is just an elf versus elf monster. He really, at least he used to have some really nice Priestess of the Moon strategies, because his Huntress Micro is just so strong, but that's not what we've been seeing a lot from him recently. We've been seeing a lot more tier 3 play from him, and looks like that is what we're going to be seeing this time. He is going to be going for a Demon Hunter, and Jade also going for a Demon Hunter, so both players opening up fairly similarly, though as I say, this creeping difference can actually yield quite large results, because if you can get away with it, it's definitely better for ReminD. It's just there's that small issue of actually if it is close spawns, then you can be put in a bit of trouble. But it looks like, fortunately for ReminD, it isn't, and ReminD's about to scout this out. He's probably pretty confident that it isn't, because he hasn't scouted out yet, and he did scout pretty late. Meanwhile, Jade did scout a lot earlier, scouted out that they weren't in close positions, and now we'll realise that they are in these sort of horizontal cross positions, not completely cross, but not close either. And ReminD now could have started off with creeping. One of the bad things about this creeping spot is it's a bit harder to get to a tree to eat, so ReminD does have to do a bit of micro, and we'll have to actually use a wisp to repair, just to be absolutely safe, because obviously if the Demon Hunter and an Archer came in and started focusing down the Ancient of War and ReminD were to lose it, then he would really be in a lot of trouble. Both players now are doing their creeping. Actually, Jade, because he could start his Ancient of War a bit earlier, and because that meant that he can actually finish off the one really important creep a bit earlier, and that allowed him to actually get going on this harassment, which is very nice for him. As I said, this creeping, it's alright. Actually, this Ancient of War now will be taking a bit of focus. Actually, it looks like the Archer now under a bit of attack, and ReminD does need to be careful. Does micro it very nicely to run that Ancient of War, but it looks like it won't be able to get away, and ReminD might well now lose his first Archer. Even brought in or Jade even brought in a wisp to try and block, but it wasn't necessary. Very nice play here by Jade. Nice instinct to go straight for that attack. And meanwhile, we do have a Gloves of Haste being picked up for ReminD, but a Gauntlets of Strength being picked up for Jade. Probably a slightly better item in the long run for ReminD, but in the moment, for the moment at least, Jade's actually doing all right at least, because that's going to make his moon rolls much more efficient as well, on top of everything else. And Jade now gonna have to run back home, because this Demon Hunter just has too much hit points from ReminD, though ReminD's gonna need to be careful not to run past his Ancient of War. He does manage to get, he just turn around though, and Jade building lots of archers as well as teching. Obviously you have to build a lot of archers in this matchup, just because there's the threat. Actually on this map there's a really strong Ancient of War, Naga, and Archer push at tier 2, which is just so powerful. Even in cross spawns, because there's so much space in the middle of the map to put up a whole bunch of those Ancients of War, and you won't necessarily be scouted out doing that. So it's something that you do need to be wary of, and you really do need to be pumping these archers until you hit tier 2, at which point your hero will be, or your second hero, your Naga, presumably will probably be enough to keep you alive for a lot longer, and allow you to get to your tier 3 if that's what your end goal is. And it looks like Jade now going to be creeping this camp out, going to be taking out this ogre first, because it will give him the item. Drops a circlet, fantastic item. ReminD has scouted this out, but his Demon Hunter's a bit too far behind, finally getting back into this. Has picked up a circlet from himself actually, I believe he got that at the shop, and bought some dust as well. Meanwhile, I think we did have the boots. Yeah, we did have the boots being bought here for Jade. We can see Jade now dropping. Actually, did he drop his gauntlets there? I think he only might have dropped his circlets, so not being 100% efficient, but ReminD now coming in, going to be able to steal this one creep, and that's going to get him exactly to level 2, or level 2 more or less, and that's more than enough for him though, and it's just so important, because that level 2 versus level 1 Demon Hunter is really nice. Actually, with no dust for Jade, he's not going to be able to capitalize on these hidden archers, which will eventually be able to run away, and ReminD now will have to run home and heal up, but he has a whole bunch of moon juice left in the bank, and tier 2 now almost done. Actually, that's now being bought here for Jade, who will be able to pick off another archer. He has already picked off one, bear in mind. Looks like he's trying to micro one to try and do get a bit of blocking off, but doesn't do enough in the end. ReminD realizes he can't even try and pick off that one low archer. Does have to turn around. Fantastic play there by Jade. Really, really nice micro. And looks like we will be having ReminD having to use a lot of moon juice now, and we can see he does drop his circlet. And tier 2 now finishing here for ReminD, and I imagine it's also done. Yes, it is also done for Jade, who has actually picked up a secondary already, getting the Naga, and we do have actually a Naga for both players. ReminD choosing to build his Ancient of Wonders in the middle of the map, just so he can pick up that crucial staff as soon as possible, so that once he engages now, he has an advantage, just in case, for example, if Jade were to engage, actually, his Ancient Wonders is really late, but if Jade were to engage before picking up his staff, he'd just be in such a bad position, because Demon Hunter would be so much less potent, because ReminD can keep his Demon Hunter in until it's down to a couple hit points, then be staffed out. Meanwhile, Jade would have to be running his all about, trying to stop him from being hit, which would mean it couldn't be in the best position to hit ReminD's Demon Hunter. Just be a huge mess, and so it's actually pretty big that he's forgotten his shot for this long, because it really could cause him troubles in the long run. But Jade doing some very ambitious creeping now, going to be going for these turtles, and because he does have 6 archers out, that means he has a good amount of DPS, and he can afford to tank on his Demon Hunter, actually picking up a second boots of speed there. That's unfortunate there for him. I'm not sure if he bought that. He must have bought it at the shop, I think. Or no, maybe he picked it. Yeah, no, he didn't. I'm not sure where he got it from then. He must have picked it up at the shop, or maybe he stole it from ReminD. I'm not sure if ReminD ever bought one though. That's an interesting though there for him. I'm really confused about that. Maybe if he's gonna pass off to that Naga, it'd be nice. But actually, ReminD taking a bit too much damage on that one wisp just from the shockwave, trying to use the wisp to get a block off, but a bit too late there, and so he won't be able to do some super efficient creeping, but he's still doing some good amount of creeping there. We did have Wanda Mana Stealing being picked up there for Jade. Not the best item. I'm actually a bit surprised he didn't sell it, but it's certainly at the end of the road. We can see a lot of damage being taken on all of these archers, but the Rune of Healing will be fantastic for that. There we go there. And then +4 strength, +4 intelligence there for the Demon Hunter. Actually might be better there on the Naga, just because that Naga can be focused on quite a lot if you get out of position. But certainly the Demon Hunter is the first thing you want to be protecting, so I'll probably keep it on that. And it looks like we will be having Jade finishing off the creeping here, getting level 2 on his Naga as well. And we do have Ancients of Winds, I think, for both players. Yes, we do. Second Ancient Wind not yet finished for Jade, and Jade actually not doing anything with his first one, so being a bit sloppy on his macro there. But we do have ReminD now doing some creeping. This is probably a bit smarter creeping than what Jade was doing, using his Ancient of War, and actually it looks like it might well go down now, but that's not a huge deal at this point. The Ancient of War can go down, you don't need it for anything else. And it looks like ReminD will have to run away, but he did pick up a potion of greater mana, and so he can pass out. If he gets a third hero, he can maybe use it from that. Otherwise, it's still run on the Naga to try and get a bit of extra focusing down from Fork Lightnings if you really need it in a pinch, but otherwise not too important. And it's probably best for Jade that happened, because he got a pretty terrible item from his side as well. And ReminD now going to lose his Ancient of Wonders, which is very unfortunate, because oh no, he has picked up an orb now, so he is okay. Actually, it looks like he did a lot of emergency shopping, even picking up a potion of healing, anticipating that he was going to lose his shop, and that's very nice for him. Both players are tier 3. Yeah, Jade just finishing his tier 3 now, and ReminD's already finished. We do have a Tinker being picked up here for Jade. Very common with dots, as we know. There's a couple other options you can go. The Dark Ranger is the other obvious option. We have seen some players going for Priest of the Moon third, just to get that aura, because obviously almost your entire army is ranged, and that's pretty good as long as you can make up for the fact that you have a bit less tanking power. So whether that be, say, if it's on a different map, buying an Ogre Mauler or something like that, that can be very effective, but it's certainly not as effective on this map. And we can see ReminD now picking up a Tinker of his own, and it's certainly the most standard choice. Neither player opting to expand at this point, by the looks of things. There is a small window here where you can try and get away with expanding, but I think it's actually probably started to pass by now, especially if there aren't any mercs on this map, because that does again hurt your ability to sort of tide over the problems that you will be facing until your expansion starts to pay for itself. Mantle of Intelligence being picked up and being transferred to that Naga, just so that the Naga can be doing a bit of extra damage, and you can have a couple extra Forked Lightnings. And as I say, actually, the great push of greater mana might be really useful on this Tinker if he then trains Cluster Rockets as a second skill, that could be very, very useful, just because obviously units like archers and dots tend to clump up together, and looks like that's what we're going to be seeing from both players. Both pocket factories being put down at almost simultaneous times, but Jade, realizing that he doesn't want to be taking this fight, actually turns back around, but he will lose his pocket factory immediately, and now he definitely doesn't want to take this fight if he doesn't have a pocket factory, and ReminD does, and looks like one cyclone will be used to try and slow down that Demon Hunter, but apart from that, Jade will be able to get away scotch-free. Very, very nice frame, but losing only a little bit of experience and that mana on one dot. So pretty nice there for Jade, considering that could have got a lot worse. He is now at 50 food. Meanwhile, ReminD is also at 50, 48 food for ReminD. So pretty similar, and ReminD actually bringing in one wisp here. That's a really smart choice. If you can get off a detonate on a couple dots, especially when they're just sort of freshly out, they aren't all at full mana. Ooh, a Dust of Appearance being dropped here, but not being picked up. Not a huge deal, especially considering that there aren't too many archers left, but it would be nice just to deny it, just so it can't be stolen or anything. And it looks like maybe it's even a trap trying to get ReminD to run into a bad position, but it looks like both Demon Hunters being cycloned, as could be expected in this matchup. We might be seeing some Fairy Dragons later on as well. That'd be very, very smart. They're just so good. Obviously, the Naga is so weak to Fairy Dragons. And then, oh, actually, as I say that, two fly in here for ReminD, and the dots obviously take a lot from Fairy Dragons as well. So that's a very, very useful thing. And there we go there, and that's a really, really smart play there by ReminD. Very much further ahead than I was. I was just thinking of it now, and it looks like one Fork Lightning does go off here onto ReminD, but immediately a Scroll of Healing being used there by him. This Pocket Factory had a fantastic position here from ReminD. The Anti-Magic Potion on the Demon Hunter doing huge amounts of life-saving potential for both players. The Tinker now taking a lot of damage for ReminD. ReminD does staff it away at the last second, and actually the other Tinker of Jade being staffed away at the last second as well. Very, very nice. And ReminD actually having one Hippogriff just in case there are enemy Fairy Dragons, but there are not at the moment, so that's a bit useless. And actually the Tinker now goes down there for Jade. Really surprising that he lost that. He probably should have been able to heal it up on this Moon. Was clearly not paying too much attention, and it looks like we do have a Fork Lightning going down, taking down one of those dots, and ReminD now going to be running in with his Demon Hunter. Just needs to try and buy time to reposition a bit, maybe to wait for his Tinker to come back in, because that should be back in at any second now. Jade now taking a far too much damage on his Demon Hunter, will have to TP out just as the Tinker runs in for ReminD, and that battle went very, very well for ReminD, although actually now his stamina gets very low, but just manages to stay alive and wait for the TP, and that battle went very, very well for ReminD. All things considered, he did manage to get that Tinker kill, which I was very surprised by, because we can see Jade does actually have some Moon Juice left, and he did staff that Tinker home, so a bit careless there by him. And Tinker only level 1 though, so already back out, and that's still pretty nice there for ReminD, getting that little chunk of experience, and then also keeping the Tinker away and actually putting it back down to 100 mana as well. Meanwhile, this Naga really needs to heal up now, and there is enough Moon Juice to do it, though ReminD will need to have to sacrifice the healing on all his other units basically to get away with it. And actually you can see there, he just heals up his Demon Hunter, and his Naga doesn't even manage to heal up his Demon Hunter past 530 hit points, which is not nearly as much as he would ideally like. Maybe he's going to even go back and use this last mineral. Yes, he does there, and he does pick up a bunch of good items. You can see that Anti-Magic Potion, so important against those dots, and the Invuln Pot again, so important because the Demon Hunter is the main tank and basically the main damage dealer as well. You need to have it on the ground, and you need to have it being able to mana burn at crucial times as well. You know, Jade doing some creeping here, and will be quite good. You know, ReminD not doing any creeping really, probably just could buy a couple scrolls of healing and then get back into this battle. And we do have what item was picked up here. Ooh, Cloak of Flames. That can be pretty useful on the Demon Hunter if you can get it in amongst the dots. But again, that's it's very much based on whether or not you have those anti-magic potions and invulnerability potions just to stay alive for a bit longer. You know, Jade being forced to TP home here, probably could get quite a good position. Uprooting Station of War is so important, and 3 Fairy Dragons here for ReminD. Jade will maybe lose. Yes, he does lose that one Moonwell, which had a lot of Moon Juice left in it. Bit careless there, and looks like these Fairy Dragons actually being left here by ReminD, and one of them will go. Actually, 2 of them went down there, so not too great there for ReminD. He did force a TP, which is nice, but apart from that, he took a bit too much damage, I think. And actually now these Hippogriffs getting a bit over ambitious, a few too many Hippogriffs being built here by Jade. I think he was anticipating more. You get these really odd Hippogriff versus Hippogriff battles in these situations where you don't really, where you really care about air superiority, but you don't actually care about the having the Hippogriffs alive or not, as long as you have that air superiority for your fairy dragons, but it looks like a huge amount of damage now being done. Ooh, ReminD going into into bird form. I think that's a very bad idea, and he uses both of those, and that's huge there. Jade now in a fantastic position, obviously by turning them into bear form, or by turning them into bird form. It just allows the Demon Hunter to get a bunch more hits because he does have that orb of venom, so he is ranged against air. So that was a really surprising result, a really surprising choice, as well as the fact that those hippogriffs can now hit them as well. And it looks like ReminD now coming in desperately trying to keep this expansion alive, but it looks like Cyclone going to go off on the Tinker, and the Demon Hunter going to be chased away with no anti-magic potion and no invulnerability potion. Really in not a great position. And ReminD now does have this expansion. So he is mining from this expansion yet again, but it will eventually go down here, and this is not good at all here for ReminD, who got a bit over ambitious with this expansion, I think, and just got really caught out here by Jade. Now that expansion does go down, it looks like these wisps might actually manage to make it away, or at least maybe one of them will. One gets to detonate off, which just managed to drain a bunch of mana here off the Tinker. Most importantly, also got the Demon Hunter, but the Tinker's the most important thing there, because you really don't want it to have enough for a whole bunch of Pocket Factories. If you can get it with two, not have enough for one, then that's just perfect. And looks like we will be having these, actually Jade running home now, gonna want to heal up his Demon Hunter at very least, and maybe the Fairy Dragon as well, but possibly he won't bother. Actually he does there, and that's gonna cost him a bunch of Moon Juice, because obviously Fairy Dragons do have a lot of mana, and it's just gonna be a huge extra drain. ReminD now gonna come in, actually do some creeping here, actually cycling the Gargantuan Sea Turtle, so he can do the creeping a bit quicker and take a bit less damage. It's an interesting choice there. Actually, it's not something you see often at all, considering especially that he only has 7 dots. He doesn't have a huge amount of mana going. He wants to keep as much as possible for the actual battles, which would probably be trying to cyclone as many heroes as possible, but definitely putting the priority on that Demon Hunter. You know, we did have plus 150 health there for the Tinker being picked up, and actually 1 dot coming in there for Jade, and finally the rest of the army joins up here, and Jade will be getting actually a pretty bad position here. We can see there's a huge nice clump here for ReminD, and that's going to be pretty bad here, and actually this Tinker taking a lot of damage for Jade. Jade almost at level 3 on this Tinker now. That could be very, very important. Very nice fork lightning going off there. Bunch of these archers are very, very low at this point. Though certainly dots are the main priority early on in the battle. At least later on, when they don't have mana, they're less important. And this Tinker now very, very low. Actually, and the Naga very low as well. The Tinker does go down. Looks like the Naga will be able to make it away. Very nice recovery here by Jade after a not fantastic start. And both or the Demon Hunter for a ReminD Big Cyclone, as well as the Tinker for Jade. And it looks like the Demon Hunter for Jade has actually stayed on the ground for a very large amount of the time of this battle. And oh, look at this Naga now coming back in. Fantastic pathing there by Jade, but eventually that the Clockwork Goblin does time out, but the Demon Hunter now at very low health. Maybe a healing potion should be bought. That'd be very, very important here for ReminD. Actually 3 being bought here for the Naga, but unfortunately finally one of them is passed. A bit of an overspend there by ReminD, I think, on healing potions, but I guess he is quite low. Actually he has no Moon Juice as well, and it's still daytime, so he isn't in the best of positions. And this one Fairy Dragon getting a bit caught out here by Jade, but though can phase shift for a bit, but will eventually be chased down. No, looks like he will be able to fly away. We could have one of the dots being turned into birds form. Oh no, wait, no, they're magic. Never mind. But it looks like we will be having Tinker now coming in. Oh, this bunch of low units here for ReminD. It would be really nice if he had a healing potion, but unfortunately he was cycling before he could get to the shop, and now he's going to be chased down. He does have an invuln pot, and he does have that healing potion actually, and an anti-magic potion as well, so he might be okay. Look at this Naga gets focused down there for Jade, and now ReminD really needs to run. Oh my god, very nice focus there. Really caught Jade off guard. Jade thought he was in such an aggressive position, but he really was just getting a bit over ambitious, trying to get extra slows there with this Naga to keep that Demon Hunter slowed down, and just out of try to kill him basically, but also to keep him out of harm's, to keep him from escaping. And it looks like we'll be having this Tinker now coming into the battle for ReminD. He has a huge amount of hit points at this point, so he is able to do a bit of tanking. But the problem is the Demon Hunter from Jade has a huge amount of damage output at this point, and just is so durable as well. And ReminD now actually going to be having his Demon Hunter in a very, very bad position. There were lots of Jade's dots are very, very far behind, but these dots are just falling left, right, and center here for ReminD. ReminD does need to be a bit more careful. It looks like actually his Demon Hunter could be surrounded here. No, Jade's not even going to go for it. He's just going to be much more aggressive, and we will be having Jade trying to put on some pressure here, trying to take down the dots, and I think that's the best choice here, because ooh, nice healing scroll there by Jade just at the crucial time. Really solid play here by him, and now this Tinker is going to be on the run, and going to actually be safe, because Demon Hunter has to turn around to try and keep his dots alive. Another low dot being micro back there by ReminD, but looks like this Tinker again on the run. Still not much moon juice, but I think there's probably there's still a healing potion on that Naga if he wants to pass it, and ReminD now being able to get all his heroes back home. You know, we do have a bunch of heroes being lost here for Jade, and that's really the big advantage that ReminD's had, is he's been able to focus down heroes a bit more reliably than Jade has been able to. And apart from that, the army size and actually army composition very much favors Jade, because ReminD has a couple archers in his army, only 5 dots compared to this huge number of dots, as well as a bunch of archers. So many archers actually in this army as well. The Naga is now back out as well. Level 3 Naga, level 4 Demon Hunter, actually almost level 5. Ooh, wow. After this creeping, it will be level 5 Demon Hunter, as well as a level 3 Tinker versus 4-3-2 for ReminD. So good hero level advantage for Jade on top of an army advantage. But we'll have to see if ReminD's sort of hero godlike micro can actually save him, or if this is it for him in this. This is a Zotac Cup game, and looks like maybe he's gonna try and hit before the altar finishes. That'd be pretty gutsy of him to try and fight in Jade's base without where Jade has all his Moonos available to him. And looks like actually that's not what he's gonna be going for. He's gonna be running across the map. Maybe gonna try find some other creeping to do, trying to get level 5 on his Demon Hunter eventually, but certainly level 3 on the Tinker is the bigger priority at this point. And nice Fork Lightning goes off there, gonna get 3 of these Hippogriffs down to very low health and take 1 of them down. And obviously air superiority not too important for ReminD at this point, just because he's not contesting that anymore. But it is always nice to have the option to go to build a couple of fairy dragons if you need to, and if you don't have that air superiority and your opponent does build a bunch of fairy dragons, then you're sort of in a very bad position. I think there was a Moon versus Soccer game I casted about a year ago that had fantastic example of this, with just the air superiority, back and forth fighting, and lots of hippogriffs being built, even though it wasn't. Even though the actual game obviously isn't about who has the most hippogriffs, because they're completely useless against heroes, which are the key point of elf versus elf. But they're just sort of they're important to take down fairy dragons, which are important to take down dots, which are important to take down units. So it sort of is a very interesting cyclic behavior. And Jade now walking out his Tree of Eternity, which does have Nature's Blessing. Meanwhile, ReminD still researching Nature's Blessing. Ooh, bit of a blunder there by him. Good to mean that it's going to be a lot longer before he can actually get his mining started again. And when he does get started mining, he does have a bit less gold there. But only 400, didn't mention mine much before the attack came in by Jade, the really fantastically timed attack. And Jade now with a huge army actually. He's at 58 food compared to only 42 of ReminD, so ReminD really in a tough spot now. And still only 432 on his heroes as well, though certainly he could get a Tinker level 3 here now, and that would probably be the best choice for him, at which point I think ReminD does need to try something, either do a bunch of more really risky creeping, or try and find a good creep jack. I think that's probably his better choice, is to be scouting with a couple wisps, which he doesn't really need for lumber at this point, and he only needs 5 for gold, and at that point just try and find Jade in a bad position. But Jade obviously aware of this, and he's going to be playing very conservatively, because he has all these advantages in terms of his hero levels and army size, and actually plus 6 strength from that Tinker, so important. Almost 1,000 hit points now on this on the Tinker, as well as probably about 900, 825 on the Demon Hunter as well. So really a huge amount of tanking ability for ReminD. But bear in mind that Jade does have the higher levels on his heroes, and that's just so important, because you get those extra levels of mana burns, and you get better pocket factories and everything. Actually, pocket factory levels are now equal, but it looks like Wisp being brought up for both sides. Hopefully we'll be seeing good detonates there. Yes, we do. Fantastic detonates. All of Jade's dots are being brought down to much lower mana, but we can see these fairy dragons being brought into mana fair form. That's so important as well. The Tree of Eternity being brought in, that's going to be a huge tank there for ReminD. He can even heal it up later with some trees for free. And it looks like we will be having Jade being forced back a bit. He's still in an alright position. He just doesn't need to. He just doesn't want to fight against ReminD's army when it's placed like this. This Tree of Eternity now down to 200 health, but looks like he might be able to get away. Looks like Tinker actually being focused down to 100 health, but again does get away. Very, very nice there by ReminD, managing to keep everything alive, and a bit stopping by Jade. I think he could have got that tree of eternity fairly quickly, especially considering that dots do bonus damage to those trees, and actually archers do bonus damage as well when they're uprooted. And ReminD now going to be on the chase, but does need to be very, very wary. Actually getting his Demon Hunter cycle in there, it's a smart choice there by Jade, because he does need to reposition. If he could have his heroes here and his dots behind, that'd be very nice. Although it looks like he's actually going to go do a bit of shopping first. Buy a scroll of healing actually is a very good choice. He has a bunch of very, very low units, and we do now have this tree of eternity being under attack. Still at 55 food here for Jade, so he's certainly still at a food advantage as well as a hero advantage. It's just the micro advantage of ReminD is sometimes just goes off the hook, and it looks like we do have this Tinker now down to 100. Ooh, down to a very, very low number of hit points before being healed up with a healing scroll, and we do now have ReminD trying to focus down the Naga this time, which is a good choice. Does get staffed home, but a very, very nice to force that staffing, and it's going to mean that, ooh, actually his Tinker moving forward for a bit careless there by Jade, and he has the anti-magic potion on his Tinker instead of on his Demon Hunter. It's a bit of a mistake. Goes for the, ooh, actually no, he didn't go for this round on the Demon Hunter. He could have probably got it. He can probably get it now if he goes for it, but he knows if he goes for it, he'll lose too many units, and that Demon Hunter can just use an invuln pot, and we know the Tinker from ReminD now very, very low healing. It's being used at the last second to keep that Tinker alive, but looks like it will go down nonetheless. Yes, it does. Oh my god, very, very, and actually the Naga goes down as well for Jade, and so both players trading heroes. So level 4 hero going down there for Jade, and the Demon Hunter now on the run down to 200 hit points, but does still have that invulnerability potion, which should probably be used pretty soon, because the Demon Hunter actually now getting a bit trapped here by Jade. Very, very risky play here by him, keeping his Demon Hunter in this battle for as long as he has without going back and healing. He does have the staff actually if he absolutely needs to, but he does use an invuln potion finally, and it will keep him alive for a couple more seconds. But now this Demon Hunter really needs to be staffed home, down to 10 hit points. No, he doesn't get staffed home. Oh my god, Jade making a huge mistake, and maybe ReminD can get back into this game. Maybe he can just fight his way back now that he has taken the small advantage. Both players now have taken their expansions, and oh my god, this Naga getting down to so few hit points before being forced to run back in. ReminD actually now with all his units and almost no health does need to be very, very careful, but he does have a couple heroes which can fight compared to this Tinker, which basically can't fight at this point. Gets mana burn as well, so can't even put down a pocket factory in the near future. Does have a healing potion which he does now use, and actually uses a mana potion immediately as well, so he will be able to put down a pocket factory. Very, very nice. And this Naga now hitting level 5 here for ReminD. Look at all ReminD's units. They really need to scroll of healing. Oh my god, such slow unit health there for ReminD, but he's just, as I say, one of the best, if not the best micro in the world. And look at this, so gutsy play here by ReminD. He's actually going to attack the gold mine as opposed to running home for his life to try and heal up. Probably has a combined probably about 500 combined hit points on all of these units, and really just so gutsy play here by him. If Jade had been able to tavern back a Demon Hunter or something, this could have gone so badly for him, but it looks like ReminD just so confident in his play, so confident in elf versus elf, he's just able to stick in this. And actually the Tangled Gold Mine does go down. ReminD hasn't lost a unit yet to since starting that attack, and now staffs his Demon Hunter home when it was getting low. Still no knockup, but the Demon Hunter has been taverned back here for Jade, and all low units here for ReminD. He does cycle in the Demon Hunter because obviously that's the big threat. It is the one with the boots. It is the thing that will chase you down, and ReminD now will be able to get home. Doesn't have a whole lot of moon juice, but he has healed up his Demon Hunter partially, which is perhaps enough. Needed by a second healing potion, I think, for this Naga. He has bought one for his Demon Hunter, and now ReminD's Tree of Eternity under attack. He didn't manage to heal it up fully, I think, because he probably only ate one tree before rooting, because you don't want to get that that mining as soon as possible. And ReminD now on the run yet again with his Demon Hunter, but the Naga back in this battle. The Naga actually back for Jade as well, so 3 heroes versus 2. That's gonna favor him, but oh my god, Fork Lightning goes off, the Demon Hunter goes down, and now the Tinker in a very, very bad position as well. Tinker goes down as well, Fork Lightning goes off from Jade, but his only hero left, his only unit pretty much, is this Naga, which is now being chased down. We do have not enough mana for another Fork Lightning on this Naga, but that shouldn't be required. We do have almost level 6 on ReminD's Demon Hunter, and he's managed to not only stay in this game, but now come back, gonna take down that Naga, and we will be seeing the GG here any second. There we go, fantastic play there by ReminD, coming back from almost nothing there. Wow, amazing play there by him in that Elfin Mirror. So I hope you enjoy that game. Wow, amazing comeback. I can't believe how gutsy ReminD was at the end of that game, just with sort of 7 units I think there, and they had sort of certainly no unit had more than 200 hit points, and lots of them were down to 50 or 60, but wow, amazing play there by him. I hope you enjoyed that game, folks, as ever, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.